is for Ward 4, Emily Jew. Emily, welcome.
Hi.
Hi, thank you for joining us this evening.
Good to see you again. Hi. I'm Emily, and I love Broomfield. Raise your hand if you love Broomfield. Whoop whoop, Broomfield, yay. So, well, welcome. I've been here a really long time. I'm going to tell you a little bit about who I am and the story of how I got to where I am today. It's a really good story. My grandparents were of the first residents here in Broomfield, and they loved their community. And my grandma was a pioneer, and she looked around and she saw needs in her community, and then she figured out how she was going to meet those needs. And so because of her work, she started organizations like Broomfield Fish, the Community Foundation, BCAH, Senior Resources, the Chamber of Commerce, and to me, one of the most important is our church. And I really love my church. It's the Broomfield United Church of Christ. It's a great place. My grandma and my grandpa also had a big role in inspiring me to be a person that wanted to care for their community. When I was graduating 5th grade, moving on to 6th grade, they took me to Washington, D.C. And it was the first time that I got to see our nation's capital, and I fell in love. I fell in love with being an American. And so I went on in middle school and paid attention to my social studies classes and my history classes. And I went to National Close-Up again. And then in high school, I was active in our political club, and I went to National Close-Up again. And then when I graduated, I was a Rotary exchange student, and I went to São Paulo, Brazil. And I learned how to speak Portuguese, and I got an up-close look at poverty, and I understood what it meant to be an American. And so I came back. I am a gifted fundraiser. I love asking people for money. I think it's really great to inspire them to the mission and then help them support it. I worked for Grassroots International, and I was fundraising primarily for Save the Children, which is a group doing a lot of work around the world. And then I got married, and I had 3 boys, and I stopped working, and I felt like I really wanted to go back to work, and I wasn't sure what to do. And when I was at church, I saw a job posting for Broomfield Fish for events and marketing, and I felt uniquely qualified and called to apply, and so I did. And it changed my life. And I loved working for Broomfield. I loved working for Broomfield Fish. And through that work, I've come into a wide cross-section of the population. Everything from our most vulnerable neighbors to our respected business leaders. And it's meant a lot to me. And so I threw this amazing 4th of July party this year, and my friend came into my past, and he said, Emily, what are you doing? And I said, you know, I'm being a mom, I'm a fundraiser, I'm having a great time. And he said, I thought you were gonna be in politics. And I was like, well, you know, I have been a little bit doing some fundraising. And he said, I think it's your turn. And so I took him up on the offer, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna look myself in the mirror, I'm gonna step into my brave, and I'm gonna say, okay, Broomfield, I'm gonna serve you in a wider capacity. And so, here I am. I've had a crash course in Broomfield politics in the past 6 weeks. I've learned a lot, I've grown a lot. I've realized that, yeah, some people, they're gonna love you. You know, when I wasn't running for elected office, people were like, yes, Emily, you're so fun and cool and honest and authentic, and we love you. And now I've had to own up to positions and take stances and be on one side or be on the other side. And some people have said, yes, yay. And other people have said, not for me. And that's okay. But I'm willing to understand the complexity of issues. And I think the thing that I will bring to council that will be more powerful than anyone else is my ability to collaborate. I am a true bridge builder. I have created fundraising opportunities for many nonprofits. Our most recent one was called Caring for Broomfield Together. And it was my idea, and we came together, we all put in $1,000, and then we had a $4,000 marketing budget, and we all experienced great increases on fundraising because we worked together. And I think that here on City Council, we can be the kind of council that works together again. There's not just one path of one mountain. There's multiple mountains, and there's multiple paths, and they're filled with love, and they're filled with light, and I want to be the person to turn on the lights and say, look around, folks. We're standing right next to each other. So, I'm sure you have questions, and I'd love to hear them.
So given that you're running in Ward 4 and oil and gas, as we've heard tonight from the other candidates, is such an important issue in that area, number one, how would you have voted on that open space vote in terms of allowing oil and gas an exception to operate in our open spaces and perform industrial activities in the middle of our open spaces that are paid for by Broomfield tax dollars, our money? And additionally, given the new powers that the council has with SB 181, what new ideas do you have for new regulations or setbacks or other things that Broomfield can implement with these new powers available?
So I can't tell you exactly how I would have voted because I'm not on City Council and I have not participated in the special sessions and I have not gotten all the information. But what I can say is that I understand that oil and gas is a very complex issue and that there's trade-offs and there's balance and that Broomfield has been a leader when it comes to our regulations and that other regional communities have looked at what we've done and they've said, wow, Broomfield, you guys are in a really bad situation and you're doing a really good job protecting the health and safety of our neighbors and prioritizing the environment. And I think that we need to continue to do this work and that I want to do more.
And what would you do then with the powers available provided by Senate Bill 181 that allows local control? So what ideas do you have, given the fact that you live in Ward 4, where all of these operations are currently happening?
Well, they're not all exclusively in Ward 4, but I think that Senate Bill 181 is cutting-edge legislation and that it gives new powers to the city of Broomfield and that we still have yet to figure out how we can best utilize these new laws. And I will say this is what will differentiate me from other candidates. Is that to me the law is very important, and I will work to uphold the law in Broomfield, and that will be something that is very important to me.
Hi, I'm Craig Hebring. I'm a climate reality leader. So this is tangential to the oil and gas discussion, but what would be your position on Broomfield committing to move to 100% renewable energy for city use in the next 10 years?
So I'm really excited you asked me this question. I've actually started a new project. It's called Broomfield Now. And it's an unbiased news source that's a podcast, and we're going to be releasing our first episode this Sunday. And I had a very interesting panelist today. He was talking about the marijuana business in Broomfield. And so I think clean energy, yes. Renewable sources of energy, of course we want that for our country and for our world. But I don't think that the technology of solar and wind is entirely up to par. I think that there are ways, I think that when you are harnessing the power of the sun and then it's being collected into a battery and then you are unable to dispose this battery, we still haven't made it yet when we're talking about renewable energy. But I think that there's a lot of promise in the hemp industry. I'm just gonna go ahead and say that. And I think that Broomfield has not done their part to be a part of this industry, and I think that we should move in that direction, and I think that there are new technologies, and I would support science to further develop new renewable energy sources because I think that's very important that we have a healthy climate. I know a lot of things. I know a lot about oil and gas, and I know about a lot of other things in Broomfield too.
Lori, I don't know you very well, so I just really, it looks really impressive, but I just wondered, like your last statement in the Broomfield Enterprise was you don't know a lot about policy, but you want to make people be better. But like what do you want to do, like for the city of Broomfield to better the city?
Yeah, so I think, Yeah, thanks. Broomfield is known for being America's most playful city, and I think that's really cool. And there are things that we did to create an environment where it is a playful city. And I think that mental health, for me, as a mother of 3 boys, and I'm concerned about their happiness, I'm concerned about their well-being in school, I think that mental health needs to be a priority for the city and county of Broomfield. And that comes from not only accessibility and affordable care and making sure that people have timely care, but also promoting healthy lifestyles that don't just focus on nutrition, but focus on whole body health. So I don't know if anybody here knows this, I'm sure some people do. We have more trails than we do roads. And I think that's really cool. And I support the city of Broomfield encouraging people to have healthy lifestyles because I think it's good for communities. I would also go along the lines of like plastic bags in King Soopers, for example. I think the city of Broomfield should really do their part to inspire people to live conservative lifestyles that reduce our dependency on oil and gas that creates plastic, that does these things. Like, we need to have renewable lifestyles that are good for the environment, and I think the city can do a lot to inspire people to live that way.
One last question, then we'll move
No,
on.
we still have about 5 minutes.
Okay,
Yeah.
somebody else? Becky, go ahead.
I heard you chose to be a Republican after Trump was elected president. Can you tell us how you align with it?
Where did you hear that?
Just online.
Okay, online. Yeah, so I've heard, somebody told me that there was a rumor going on that I was a Republican because Donald Trump was elected president, but that's not true. I was a registered Democrat, and I had a friend running for political office, and I wanted to help them. And to anyone who's ever run for office knows that Democrats have reporting systems and Republicans have databases. And for me to get access to the database so that I could help participate in the fundraising activities, I had to switch my registration. And for me, I think a lot of millennials could relate to this. Yeah, I can't really call me a Democrat because I don't necessarily align in all of those ways that I think Democrats align. And no, you couldn't really call me a Republican either because I don't necessarily align with all of those Republican ideals either. What I think is important is that we look at issues one by one and that we find compromise in complexity. So that's completely inaccurate. I changed my registration so that I could have a job.
Thank you.
We still have,
Well, we
we
do?
still have- yeah.
Okay, I thought one on.
Oh, okay. We
Okay.
have time for at least
Go ahead.
one
Okay.
more
Okay.
question.
City growth, can you talk about, since you have seen Broomfield be small, do you have any ideas for how to, or would you want to keep it from growing much bigger, or would you encourage more growth in Broomfield?
So Broomfield is a master planned community, and we have almost 70,000 residents, and our plan is to go up to almost 96,000 residents. And to me, that's really hard to imagine how we're going to fit that many more residents in here. With that said, I was canvassing, and I met a gentleman who, we were reminiscing on the fact that, hey, I used to sit out in my backyard and be able to see the Milky Way. And I said, yeah, I used to sleep out on my parents' trampoline and watch the Milky Way as well. And he wrote me an email later, and he said, Emily, the first priority on your card is retail and business development. How does that go with commiserating about the Milky Way? And I'm like, well, you know what, sir? I used to ride my horse where your home is built. So there's that. I like Arista, okay? I know it's not been perfect for the city of Broomfield and that there's been issues and hasn't been paying for itself and whatnot. But what I like about it is that homes are closer together and that people can stay near transportation hubs, and they also have retail and different business opportunities that they can support in that area. And I would support increased housing by main transportation hubs, because I think that increasing the supply will really do a lot to address our housing affordability issues. because we really have a major problem with that. So, thanks. Thanks for